Hey fellas, this episode of On the Screws podcast is brought to you by our favorite producers of ball trimmers, Manscaped. Join the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming in leaving 2021 behind and entering 2022 with a clear mind and clean balls. Special offer alert, use the code OTSGolf for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. 4 million men already trust Manscaped. Time for you to join them.
3 shots, per par, I just do 2, 1 putt, par 4, birdie, woohoo, new driver, info, replace, M2, par 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into, start right, good line, good view, hit Drew, shoot him, McGavin.
Welcome to On the Screws podcast. This is one of our first in-person ones, so thanks Spencer. We're back with Spencer Dungey, past guest. He's been on the pod before. It's been nearly a year.
Yeah, Tiger's injuries.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, that's right. That was kind of one of our main talking points to kind of get you on and explain some of the things that he might be going through in his rehab. And today Tiger's back playing the PNC. So yeah. It's pretty cool. He's playing the PNC. This is we're recording this on the Friday of the PNC. We'll probably be putting this out just after Christmas. So I thought, great idea to have somebody on who kind of knows about the body, knows about golf, knows about the game, and explain some of the things that we can be doing in the off season. A lot of us listening to this podcast are kind of in the Greater Toronto area or Ontario, Canada, and we might not have much option to play golf. But if you are looking to play, as you can hear, if you're listening in your car or whatever, we are in a simulator at Athletify in Newmarket, Ontario. Got a couple people around the bays and stuff. So if you aren't checking this out, head over to YouTube. And yeah, you're good. No problem, man. You're good. Head over to YouTube and check it out over there. It's pretty cool. Amazing spot. Spencer, maybe you can you do a little bit of work here. Maybe you can let us know a little bit about Athletify here.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an athletic therapist and strength and conditioning coach here. So we work kind of the whole Athletify in general. It's a therapy clinic as well as golf performance. So we work whether to get your body fixed in the treatment room or strengthening in the gym and then translating it into here to the golf bay. We have a PGA teaching professional here as well. So we kind of go with the whole team approach. We follow the TPI, Titleist Performance Institute model. So kind of working together with medical, fitness, and the golf instruction. So the whole trifecta here.
Yeah, I was just looking it up here quickly. We're at 715 Yonge Street in Newmarket. So you pull into the plaza, kind of tucked over on in the corner. We'll do a little, if you're not following us at OTS Golf over on Instagram, go check it out. We'll do a little reel, kind of show you a little bit about the facility. But we're sitting in the third bay right now. We were hitting one of the other ones earlier. Yeah, like you said, they got a gym here, turf all over the ground. You just feel like you're kind of, there's a little putting green. You kind of feel like you're I don't know, you're able to cope with the off season that we go through. So
yeah, there's no off season. We've got this kind of place.
Yeah, when you have a place like this, there is definitely no off season. So I want to thank the team at Athletify for having us out today. Hit a couple balls, beat Spencer in a match. It was pretty good. It got close though. It was
made him sweat.
Neither one of us played our best golf, so we might have to come back and do it again. We'll probably release that one, I guess, probably over on our YouTube channel, on the Screws podcast, in a 3-part series, 6 holes at a time. I was 4 up. I'll give you a little teaser. I was 4 up at one point. It did not end that way. So Spencer, again, we're in conversation with Spencer Dungey of the Athletic Therapy Lab. Am I saying that right, Spencer?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So athletic therapist. If you haven't already listened to the past podcasts, we're gonna kind of chat about who Spencer is. Can you let us know, Spencer, kind of how you, anybody who didn't catch the last one, how you and I may be connected and some of your past experience?
Yeah, for sure. So just kind of connected in the golf Instagram world, I think, is how we first hit it off. And
yeah.
I kind of slowly steered my career into a bit of a golf niche market. Myself, pretty young to the game of golf. Started playing, I think, like half the world did, and when COVID first hit. So before that, I never really had the chance to play because most of my background professionally has been working with professional sports. So I had various opportunities working with Toronto FC in the MLS, CFL, worked with the Ottawa Red Blacks, and then most people recognize the 2019 Raptors. So
absolutely
good opportunities there. And you know what, like I think a lot of people, I kind of realized nice to slow down a little bit when we were kind of forced to, and maybe kind of get more into the private practice. And with that transition to the private practice, kind of transitioning, using my same kind of philosophy I developed working with the pro athletes and looking into how the everyday athlete can move and perform better to do what they enjoy. And for a lot of people, that's the game of golf.
Yeah, it's funny enough, like it's December 17th, I believe, and I was out on the course yesterday in Bowmanville, Ontario, which is pretty amazing. But so I know you've got a couple programs and stuff that we can get into a little bit, Spencer, but for anybody again who this is Spencer Dungey at Athletic Therapy Lab. So you do a lot of work on social media. I'm going to go ahead and link it below. So if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening this in your car, don't do it right now, but give it a few minutes. Head down, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, anything, click his link below. I'll link his Instagram as well as his website. You can check out any of the stuff there and get connected with Spencer that way if you have any questions maybe on some of the things that we're going to chat about. But in the off season here, so golfers, whether you're an average golfer, you're kind of a golfer like myself, also an average golfer, or you're competitively trying to improve your game for the next year. What are some of the things that we can be doing? Maybe if you're at home, you don't have a facility like this, or if you can get out, what are some of the things we want to do to get us through this off-season grind?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is obviously if you have the opportunity to practice even with like short game at home, or you get in full swings if you have access to a simulator, either you're in the Newmarket area, come check out Athletify, or if you're at your local golf course, whatever it might be, that's always going to help you keep your game. But there's a lot you can do outside of a club in your hand. A lot of work you can put in, whether it's in your home gym, you go to the gym, something like that. The biggest thing is most people don't have that proper place to start. And the biggest thing is just finding something you enjoy to do in the off season that keeps you moving, keeps you consistent with what you do. So if you do go to the gym, you do a heavy workout on a Tuesday and you don't go back to the gym until like the next week's Wednesday, it's not going to be as beneficial as if you did a little bit of something 3 to 4 times a week, right? Whether it's a big thing for most golfers that come through either in the table or in the gym is mobility, right? I feel like almost everyone, especially as we get older, we can all benefit from more mobility. So there's very simple things you can do to work on that, whether it's you're finding like an online program like we're going to talk about later, or you're working with a professional, or just kind of doing what you feel works for you. And that's why it's so nice when you can get the setup where you go through like a full assessment on your game and your swing and understand where you're lacking the movement and what you need to do to follow up with that to help your individual swing.
Yeah, so the cool thing about being here at Athletify is when we came in, kind of like we had Ryan Hawley with the Swing Catalyst a couple weeks ago, and we've had Spencer on in the past, Terry Hashimoto of Body Track, some really good guests, and Nick Bradley, who taught with the 2014 Ryder Cup team, was Justin Rowe's personal coach. He was on the podcast in the past, and a lot of the connection that those 4 professionals have is ground force and ground force reaction, kind of generating more power through the golf swing. So you're able to kind of work with a coach in a place like this too to work on a lot of those things. I've also personally taken Spencer's class, which I got a huge benefit from. I don't know if it was technology based or if it was getting a little bit more flexibility, but I was definitely able to hit the ball a lot further this year. Touching like distances of 350 yards and stuff like that, or regularly hitting drives, 300 yards, which was never in my bag before. So it is possible if you're, I'm an above average golfer, yes, but it's kind of one of those things where if you're, looking to improve your game, it doesn't matter if you're a 30 handicap or a 3 handicap, you can make improvements and work with professionals to do so, right? And these are the kind of places that you can do it. How was your game this year, Spencer? Like you said, would you say you're a COVID golfer?
Yeah, I definitely fall into that category.
Okay, so a COVID golfer, so playing golf a couple of years. You're an athlete though, again, I just played golf with Spencer. He's a pretty good golfer. We just played the old course at St. Andrews. I think we were both in the 80s somewhere, or high 70s, low 80s. Like we both played pretty well. Couple bad holes, but it was the putting. It was the putting for me that I just couldn't get a hold of.
It's tough to get the feel of the green on the simulator too, right? You can't feel the difference on the ground. So.
A few 3 putts, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your game? So I know I've been following you kind of through your whole journey on social media. So I kind of like it. This a couple weeks now in the month of December, we've had, I don't want to say COVID golfers, but people who fell in love with the game because of the pandemic that we've gone through, right? So you're, like I said, you're an athlete, but you're also able to kind of work on different things to improve your game. Is there anything right now that you're trying to do to kind of maximize your off season?
Oh yeah, definitely need to figure out how to hit the ball straight.
Okay.
But no, it's like the game's come a long way. Obviously, when I first started, I feel like most people when they first pick up a golf club, I think my first registered handicap on Golf Canada in July of 2020 was 38.
Okay.
So it was up there.
Yeah.
And then it was a pretty quick drop off, like in terms of the numbers coming off the handicap. I think I finished last year starting around a 22 handicap on Golf Canada, so got down pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
Hit some of those milestones, right? Broke 100, and then within the same week broke 90 for the first time, and then it was kind of just trying to find some form of consistency.
It's so infectious, right? Like no matter what, like once you start kind of hitting those plateaus, like golf's about, there's so many different plateaus in golf. You know, you start off like you see the guys on foreplay and trying to break 100, and like then you immediately you want to get to 90, and then you want to get to 80, and there's so many different, like it's just such an infectious sport that just kind of grips all of us, grabs all of us. Like we were talking with Kylie Puttycombe a few weeks ago at the ladies' tees, like great golfer, has great content, go over and check her out. But same type of thing. It's just like got her hooked, and she's kind of there, right? And can't get rid of it. Also a fellow lefty, so shout out to the fellow lefties.
All
right?
lefties here.
Yeah. So I know most of my group are lefties. Like a couple weeks ago, I know Spencer and I are both wearing those Left Behind gloves. Greg and Justin over at Left Behind. So shout out to those guys as well. But are you wanting to kind of get to, are you trying to like sort of work to anything so you can transition into the golf season coming up next year? Like again, you're lucky you have the ability to kind of come in, hit on these bays. Is there a spot where you want to get your game to next year? And then this is kind of a two-part question because I want to know how you take those things that you're working on and share that with your clientele.
Oh, for sure. So like I was saying, I got down to like a 22 handicap last year, and this year I got down to a 15. So I think the biggest thing is continuing that trend. I want to get to like either at least to a 10, if not trying to touch the single digit territory. And the biggest thing for me is that just consistency in ball striking. So I've really been working on my ball striking. I'll come in here just with an 8-iron, leave my bag away so the driver stays away for a while.
Yeah. And
just hit 8-iron after 8-iron to try to just really tighten up my dispersion as well, because I think a lot of his mindset, like I would be happy just to be on the green for my second shot. Now it's like, okay, I'm on the green, but I'm 40 feet away. Like if you watch the match we just had,
our little 3-part series, you could just see
there's a lot of those 40-foot putts.
40 feet on a simulator is like, that's 6-putt territory.
Yeah,
that's,
so
it's hard for me to grasp that stuff.
If I can tighten that up a bit, and then of course, just with the nature of the profession, I'm also in the hunt for distance. So just trying to max out the club head speed that I can get to, and then find, because the biggest thing, whether your top club head speed's 100 miles an hour club head speed, or you're touching the 120, 125 territory, if your maximum effort is higher, your cruising speed's going to be higher. So therefore, your game distance is going to be longer, and that's the biggest thing that translates to all of my clients and stuff. Like for me, coming from the performance background and formal education I have, power has never been the issue. It's just working on more of the finesse stuff, the contact, and my wedges definitely need some work.
Well, the good thing about that is, like, you know, again, we're in conversation with Spencer Dungey at the Athletic Therapy Lab, so it's you can relate that to, you know, whether you're a pro golfer and you're trying to work with a professional like Spencer, or you're, you know, an average golfer like myself, or a new golfer. Like that type of mentality, like you had said, kind of your cruising speed, which I like how you I like that terminology. So working on your speed, so your cruising speed on the course becomes faster, because naturally that's going to translate typically to more distance on the course, right? So thought we could transition though. Like I said, I have done Spencer's course before, one of the ones in the past, and I did see a lot of benefits from it. So I would highly recommend going and checking it out. But you have a new course that you've just kind of released in the off season here within the last couple of weeks. Can we touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of started off from that course you're talking about. We ran a few like online kind of Zoom type sessions during when golf became illegal here in Ontario at the start of the summer, when it was the golf prohibition. But those kind of translated in like, how could we do this to help more people? And my biggest thing is, like, I was seeing very similar patterns with the patients I was seeing in person, as well as people who would reach out to me on social media and stuff like that. And there's a lot of golf fitness content out there, whether, like, you name it, there's probably some you go across half of Florida, and there's online golf programs you can sign up for. And the problem is a lot of them are just follow along workouts. So I wanted to kind of stem away from that follow along virtual workout situation and get a bit more into the foundations, because I find a lot of people lack that solid foundation. So my program, I broke it up into sections, and each module kind of focuses on different part of the body. So we go through the hip, we go through the shoulder, the low back, the core, and we also talk about balance, things like that, like things that all contribute, whether you're recovering from an injury or you're coming from just trying to get better in your swing. So if we talk about like the hip modules, the first module that we talk about in the program, and it breaks down hip mobility exercises, breaks down hip strengthening exercises, and combining both, whether it's tightness through the hips that you need to work on, you got mobility exercises for that, or if it's strengthening, everyone can use strengthening, whether you're close to shooting your age on the golf course or you're early on peak performance, right? So if you get better at your squats, your hinge patterns like a deadlift, things like that, you learn, like you were talking about ground reaction force, you learn to use the ground more, and when you can use the ground more, you're going to hit the ball farther.
Yeah, we've talked about that with it. Again, it seems like I mentioned Ryan, Terry, Nick Bradley, like there's been so many people, and we kind of keep coming back to that part of ground force in today's golf world, and how just translating that so much. I was watching a video yesterday on IG, you probably saw it too, Spencer, of like one of the best hip movements in the game is DJ's, Dustin Johnson, right? So like watching him swing the club yesterday, and just kind of having that mobility and flexibility for being such a big guy, and his swing is obviously, why he's one of the best in the world, right? And that's one of the things that I struggled with most when I came to you, and so it was nice when we were in the Zoom chat, we were kind of able, or the Zoom call, we were able to kind of tailor some of the things to my needs too, which was pretty good. But I wanted to ask you, like, how you said there was your first module was the hips. How many different modules do you do in total?
So my program now has 8 modules.
Okay.
So it's designed to you can be completed over 8 weeks.
Okay.
So the 8th module, the final module, is actually, we talk about the follow along workouts. The 8th module is designed to be like a follow along workout. So I call it the putting it all together, right? So we've broken down the previous 7 modules, the 7th one being all about power and peaking for power, because most people don't train power properly. Right. But we can get into that a little bit later. So it all comes together in the final 2 modules. They're both an hour-long workout that you follow along, learning all of the principles, whether it's mobility start into more of the functional strengthening positions specific for dissociative movement in golf, right? If you can separate your upper body from your lower body when in a nice fluid transition, that's where you're going to unlock power. You're talking about DJ with the hips. It's known as like the glutes, so the butt muscle being the king of the swing.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can get strong through the glutes, strong through your hip complex, you're going to take the stress off your low back, so no more back pain with golf, and you're going to have more efficiency in your swing, leading with the hip. When you talk about clearing your hip, right, the common term, you can lead with your hip almost like as a lefty. If I fire that left pocket to shoot through the ball, then I'm going to be able to generate that force that we need to do, whether it's to get up and down from a bunker or longer distance off the tee.
I kind of like how you worded it. Sorry, I stuck on the point where you're like separating the top from the bottom, because I feel like, especially in my game, that's, I'm a little bit older now, I'm getting into my mid-30s, that's something that I have a hard time doing, and kind of rotating to the inside. I feel like a lot of people either rotate to the inside or they really come down on the ball, which promotes that slice, right? I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a draw player. I rotate inside, but with the course when we were able to do it, it kind of helped me with my shoulder rotation a little bit. I've dislocated my shoulder a dozen or so times. Kind of sucks, but you mentioned like the power, so when we get into it a little bit later, but let's talk about it a little bit, because it's something that people are trying to add to their game right now. So again, this golf podcast is all about connecting as many people in the golf community as we can. Doesn't matter if it's a brand, a company, a golfer, new golfer, like Spencer's a relatively new golfer. I know he's a golf professional, he works in the field, but we had, like I mentioned, Kylie on, new golfer. We've had PGA Tour Canada winner Michael Blair on, Ziggy Nathu, who's down playing in the PGA Tour Latino America. Like, these are some of the best players in Canada. All of these things go in the same, and everybody has the same common discussion with me, is working on power, right? So yeah. If I'm just at home, I'm in the basement, and I want to work on some power, I can kind of reach out to you, I'm sure. Like, definitely reach out to Spencer over on Instagram. Again, go below, any platform, click the link, get in touch with him. Really nice guy. We'll definitely chat with you about the game. But, if I'm at home, what are some of the things I can do if I want to just kind of, start the process, get the process started before I get into the golf season next year?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're talking about, like no matter where you are, so whether you're teeing off from the front tees or the back tees, at the end of the day, the ball's got to get in the hole. So we're all playing the same course, right? So it works very similar in the gym. No matter your starting point, the end goals are going to remain the same. It just might look a little different for you. And the biggest thing when you want to train power, and you're talking about pure power, first you need to have that fundamental strength. Before you get to any kind of powerful movement, to avoid injury, you need to have a base layer of strength. So if I had never met someone, we wouldn't jump straight into kind of power exercises because they need that foundation. There's a reason when Bryson DeChambeau went after his crazy club head speed, he put on 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Putting on that 40 pounds allowed his body to move in the ranges it did. Otherwise, a Ferrari is no good without its brakes.
That's true. I just saw him hitting like 222 as well, which is absolutely nuts. Like yesterday, he hit like he just got a club head speed of
right. And he's a different animal.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be able to put on that kind of muscle to do it, but the biggest thing is you build that foundation to prevent injury. You don't try to work backwards. So that's why it's so important you have a strong foundation before you really try chasing those club head speed. Things like the speed sticks and stuff like that are great for training power, but like we just said, if you have no control of your body to decelerate, your body's not going to actually be able to hit its peak acceleration. And when it comes to power, your nervous system is really important. So where most people go wrong is they'll chase power and they'll be like, oh, I've seen it on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it might be, I'm going to do some box jumps. Yeah. Box jumps are a fantastic exercise for power output and ground reaction force. But if you're just firing them off and you're doing 50 box jumps in a 5-minute cycle, you're not training power, you're training your cardio system. Great workout, but it's not getting the results that you're going to want to translate into your golf game. So the biggest thing with power is your work to rest ratio, and that you can put in 100% effort every single rep. Otherwise, it's not power training.
So I'm just thinking about my past. I mentioned it a couple times on the pod as well. So in my past, I've done a little bit of competitive bodybuilding. Like we're talking 15 years ago now. So don't look like that anymore. I'm a big guy, but I don't look like I'm kind of in that shape anymore. But that's sort of how Spencer and I got connected, and I wanted to take the course was because I've herniated a couple discs. Again, I've had some bad injuries, so I wanted to work on, some parts of my game. So if I can encourage you, if you're a little bit younger or older, whatever it may be, you've got any aches and pains, definitely go over, connect with Spencer or any other professional in his field. It's really important to kind of get that guidance because even though I, can find my way around a gym very well, I don't know if it's working for my golf game. Like you said, like if you do 50 box jumps, you might think, oh, ground force, like I'm really putting 200% of my body weight into the ground 50 times. Like we don't know if that would work for us, right? So I wanted to go back to the program though, because one of the things you mentioned was it was 8 modules, and then was it twice a week?
So it's designed for you to follow along at your own pace.
Okay.
So basically what happens is you get access to the entire program once you sign up.
Is it 8? So 8 modules being 8 classes, is that right?
Well, so it's 8 sections. So
okay.
I broke it down as if you were taking almost like you're going back to school. Right? And you're taking an online course. Because I find, and the nice thing about it too is you can go back, right? So if you're say you're on module, I don't remember the numbers exactly. I think module 4 is the shoulder module. So we're talking about all things in the shoulder. But then all of a sudden you're like, what was that thing we did about the squats in the hip section? So you can just go back to the hip section, revisit that. Each individual exercise is broken down into its own video segment with its own description.
Okay.
So it's not a live class. It's all online. You have access to the full library of exercises. And I just wanted golfers, fitness lovers, all of that, to have a place where they could go back and get full instruction with each movement, what they should be feeling, what they shouldn't be feeling, little description of not just why they're doing it, but when and how to do it.
Okay, and then how long is each module for? Like how many? Like again, I guess it's...
each one kind of varies, but they're about 12 little episodes, 12 little exercises per module.
Okay.
And it's a balance of both mobility and strength. Some body regions are going to promote more so. Like when we talk about the core, we get into strengthening the core. We get into breathing mechanics and how breathing mechanics are important when it comes to not just your golf swing, but everyday life. And my biggest thing is I don't want to just help golfers on the golf course. I want to help them with everything else they're doing off the course as well. Because if you're going to move better and feel better off the course, right? Because a lot of us, what happens is most people end up working in a desk job, some kind of office job, especially now it's working from home.
Yeah.
And not the greatest setups. So we go from that 9 to 5 and sitting down at the computer all day straight onto the course, and we're expecting our body to be at peak velocity, rotational movements, probably like around 100 times, and then we wonder why it doesn't work out too well, right? So if we can get that movement proficiency and just the better understanding of how our body moves and when and why to move it in a certain way, it's not going to just translate to better golf, it's going to translate to a better life.
I like it because we're all kind of in the position of working from home, or if we're in the office right now, we're all kind of sitting down for extended periods of time. So it sounds like, you know, it's a pretty extensive module. It's built for golfers, but it's also built for people to get into shape too. And if you're kind of, you know, maybe you want to get into golf next year, and it's something that you could, you know, get a good opportunity to get started. But you know, again, we're sitting here in one of the bays, which is pretty cool. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to go check us out over on the Screws podcast. Would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, check it out. But yeah, we're kind of sitting in one of the bays right now. We got a pretty sweet backdrop. This looks like Pebble number 7, I think. So
yeah, Pebble Beach. It's number hole 7, pretty iconic. It's
pretty cool. So again, I'm going to put together a little reel. We're at Athletify here over in Newmarket, Ontario. So I would encourage you to come in and check it out. Spencer, anything else that we want to kind of get to, talk about the courses, or anything else that we might have missed here?
Yeah, I think just give kind of the listeners a bit understanding of the course and why we started it. Is just it's the whole package, right? We break it down, and whether it's an injury recovery, whether it's trying to get your game better, it's going through each section at your own pace, go over it multiple times if needed, repeating it. The idea is you go through each module throughout the week, and you're practicing the movements throughout the week, and the whole idea is to give you that information you need to do your own gym work. You can take 2 or 3 exercises each module, build your own workout, following along there, and it's going to directly translate to better movement proficiency, and that is the biggest thing, right? If we can get you better mobility and better strength in those ranges, and you start working with a golf pro, they're going to be using the same terminology. You're going to understand what it means when they say that hip turn and things like that, understand how and when to apply it. And I think that's why we named the program the Everyday Golfer, and it's because it's not just for the pros around, it's not just for the guy who struggles to break 100, right? It's for everyone in between, and no matter where your starting point is, you're going to benefit from something like this.
I like it. I took the course. I can attest to it. I almost made a hole-in-one on a 345-yard par 4.
That's right. Can't promise those kind of results.
I feel like it's every week I bring that up. You guys hear it. I try not to talk about it anymore, but probably highlight of the year, or I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of tainted my my ability to golf or get anything close to the hole anymore. But you heard it here first. If you take the course, you will make a hole-in-one on a par 4. But yeah, Spencer, before I let you go, can we share the handles? I know you got to get back to the clinic, but can you share the Instagram handles, your website, any way that we can get a hold of you? Again, if you have any questions, go over, check out, Spencer's going to give you the handles here. Check it out, send him a DM, or email him over at whatever his email is here, and he'll get in touch with you. And it's just a way to kind of, again, connect as many people in the game as possible. And regardless of your questions, none of them are stupid questions. We all have, I've had so many about like working with my shoulder, how to kind of clear my hips, different things that I wasn't quite sure on, and Spencer was able to help me out with them. It's just really about connecting as many people as we can in the golf community, kind of like we're doing here in a golf bay, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, any of the handles that you can share before we go?
Yeah, so Instagram is at @theathlete_AT, and then you can email me at spencer@athletictherapylab.ca. Check us out on athletictherapylab.ca, or if you're in the Newmarket area, you can check me out at athletify.ca. That's where we're at right now. The biggest thing, like Mac was saying, there is no stupid questions, right? I'm always looking for new ideas for content for Instagram as well. So if, like, say you were saying your shoulder issue, something like that, right? If that inspires me to create a post, that's super helpful to me, because trying to figure out when to put in that social media stuff on a busy clinic schedule, it's always open to ideas.
Absolutely. Now, so if we're at, again, on I'll try and remember to link the past pod that we did. We've got a little bit better sound quality and stuff since then. So Appreciate you going back and having a listen, but maybe you can explain some of the things that if somebody comes in and tries to book a session with you here at Athletify or at the Athletic Therapy Lab, what are some of the things that you're working on in person, hopefully while we still can?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, kind of regardless of the COVID situation, we'll still be able to continue healthcare in person. So a little bit easy that way. But the biggest thing is like we'd go through like a full body assessment, right? If we're speaking just general treatment, kind of see what your main complaint is, see how your range of motion, and try to figure out the biggest problem is where your pain is rarely where it's actually stemming from. I use the reference a lot of like a garden hose. And if you stand on the kink of a hose, it's gonna decrease the amount of water coming out of one end. But as you start adding more and more kinks to that hose, it starts decreasing to the point where no flow comes out. So that's the point where your body starts saying, hey, my shoulder hurts. But just because it's the shoulder doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from where you feel the pain. So that's where my job kind of comes in. It's nice, it's kind of putting that puzzle together and figuring out where your main problem is really stemming from and how to not just help your pain in the short term, but how to rid the pain. And that's, I'm not interested in like the Band-Aid solutions of just making you feel better. I want you to not have to come back. I want you to send someone else, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of how you'll refer other people, and that's kind of how, you know, after I took Spencer's course and I got connected, we started connecting with a few other people, right? And that's why it's been good to have you back on the pod here. And I appreciate you taking the time. This was great. We were able to hit some golf balls, some of them good, some of them not so good. But anytime you're hitting golf balls is a good time, especially you know, this in the middle of the winter here. So again, if you're not following us at OTS Golf on Instagram, please go over and do so. On the Screws Podcast over on YouTube. If you're listening to this, I would appreciate, or you know, if you could go over and check it out. This is one of our first live podcasts, which is great. A lot of them have been over Zoom, so it's been really cool to connect with Spencer. And of course, we're going to get him back on in the future. You know, kind of maybe at the start of the golf season or get in the mid-golf season, kind of talk about some of the things we can do to enhance our game. And if you haven't already, go over, check it out, find a way to kind of improve your game, make it a little bit better. Really appreciate this, Spencer Dungey of the Athletic Therapy Lab. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it, man. Awesome.
He's out in my ball in the course, so I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross.